I would show you some of my pink plants. I guess I never really realized that plants could be pink. I thought they were green, but I guess I was wrong. So I've sort of developed this collection of cool pink plants. Pink is one of my favorite colors. I'm wearing it. Maya, my dog, is wearing it. Maya. She heard me. And I'm about to introduce you to some of my favorite pink plants, and actually pretty much all of my pink plants. So some of them you may have seen before, but let's start from the top of my list in no particular order, I guess. So I have two Stromanthe plants. So this is the one that I got first. So these are also known as prayer plants because when sometimes as the day goes on, they will sort of curl up and go like that. They also do that when they're dry. But this one is called Stromanthe Triostar, and this one I have had for a couple of years, and it's doing pretty well. So for some reason when I got it, some of the leaves were sort of cut off like that. I'm not sure if that's how you propagate this plant, but maybe the tips were taken to make new plants. But anyways, I mean, it's doing pretty well. The leaves that have grown in, you can see they have this like really pale pink on the top side of the leaves, and then this sort of like bright neon pink underneath. And again, this is Stromanthe Triostar. I don't know if it's Stromanthe or Stromanthe, so I might go back and forth. But that's one. And I also have, this one isn't quite as pink, but this one is called Stromanthe Magic Star. So this one I got recently. I'm not sure if it's happy. I feel like the other one looks a lot better. This one came to me as a really full plant, and I have it in my bedroom. I think it's probably getting enough light, but I wondered if maybe it was root bound. I actually trimmed off quite a bit because the leaves were sort of crispy and brown, and I think that made it perk up a little, but it always seems to be curled. So I'm not really sure why. I actually have a humidifier near this plant, and it seems to like that too. Today, it looks all right. It might actually need to be watered. If I can be honest with you, I kind of like the other Stromanthe plant better. So, but generally, I think they're pretty easy plants to take care of. I've heard that they can be a little bit fickle. That second one that I showed you, it had some brown tips. And I guess that's one of the things that sort of plagues these plants and kind of keeps some people away from it. But I guess it's pretty common, and it can be from lack of humidity. It can be if the room is too warm or too cold. But generally with these plants, you want a warm, well-lit area, but not direct sun. However, the more light that you have, the more variegation you'll see on the leaves, and that goes for most variegated plants. These plants do like humidity. I have the second one near a humidifier, and it seems happier than it did a month ago. The first one that I showed you was not near any humidifier, and it's doing really well without it. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that second plant, but I do really like it, but the first one is a little bit more special to me. I usually water these plants twice a week. That second one that I showed you, it is in a terracotta planter, and so that type of pot tends to dry out more quickly. And so I've been kind of careful with that one. I've been watering it maybe 3 times a week, just a little bit when it feels really dry. But usually you just want to wait until the soil feels dry and then water it. But they do appreciate some humidity in the air. So you could have a humidifier or put it on a tray of pebbles or something. But those plants I think are pretty cool. Now, the next one I think that I've shown you before, so this is one of my all-time favorites. This is a pink princess philodendron. It's doing really well. I have a lot of new growth on it. These are, I don't think that I'm the only one who's coveted this plant, but I looked and I looked and I looked, and finally I found it. For a while, I didn't really have it in a bright enough area, so some of the leaves are darker. Recently, I've moved it in front of a south-facing window, and the new growth, well, first of all, the new growth tends to be dark, but usually it will fade to like a baby pink color. And I can see that there's more variegation on these leaves, but it might take a little bit of time to develop. And it's really bounced back. It's trailing. I mean, it's climbing, I guess, but you can also train it to go up a trellis. This is a plant that, like I said, likes good light. It likes moist, well-draining soil and also a fair amount of humidity. But where it's a philodendron, I found it to be really forgiving. That's one of my favorite plants. Now, this one I've had for a couple of years too, and this is a pink neon syngonium, or an arrowhead plant. I think this plant is pretty cool, and this plant is just really happy. It's putting out all of this new growth. For a while it was sort of leaning, so I have this sort of little stake here. It does sort of reach towards the light, but I mean, it could probably be a little bit closer to the light. But I love the coloration on this. I love this soft pink. I like the green underneath. I like how they contrast together. And, you know, I really haven't had any problems with this plant. I have this one maybe a little too far away from a south-facing window, but it's probably about 8 feet away. Seems to be happy. I usually water it once or twice a week, you know, just a little bit. Like most plants, it appreciates well-draining soil. And other than that, I don't really have any special care tips for you. When I see, or if I see a brown leaf or a dried leaf, usually I cut it off. And I do that with most of my plants. So my thought is that it's probably trying to send energy to a leaf that's dying. So might as well just cut it off. And I have 2 of those plants. One doesn't have as much pink on it. It must be a different variety of it. But that one, I know it's a pink neon syngonium. And with that plant, so mine, you know, you can see it was a little bit leggy, but you can pinch off some of the new growth and it will encourage it to be a little bit bushier. I haven't really done that. So in this one I showed you on my last video, this is a Hoya Crimson Queen. I love this plant. How could I not? So it is a Hoya. It's sort of a succulent, so it likes to dry out before you water it. It likes a lot of sun. The more sun you give it, the more of these pretty variegated leaves that you have. It tends to trail, and when it's really happy, it might flower. And I think that this one will probably be the only Hoya that I have that might flower, because I have it in a spot that it's just perfect for it. So I really love, you know, you have this soft pink, these cream colored leaves that have a little bit of pink on them. So it's not entirely pink, but it's just pink enough for me. So I love this plant. When I saw it in a nursery one day, I literally stopped in my tracks, and I don't even know if I looked at the price tag. I just brought it up to the register, and it's doing really well. So I love that one. Now, another one that is one of my easiest houseplants is a Aglonema plant. I think the other name is a Chinese evergreen. And so this was one of the first plants I ever bought. I'm pretty sure I bought it at Home Depot. I have no idea what variety it is, but it always has these beautiful speckled leaves. And this plant, or the plants that are in this family, they are known for doing really well in low light situations. So this one is in a kind of a dark, well, it's in a south-facing room, but it's not really in direct light, but it seems to be really happy. You know, it's getting bigger, it's bushy. This is a plant that I almost never think about. I just enjoy looking at it. It's really easy to take care of. A few times I have cut off some of the dead leaves. I recently moved it to where it is right now. Before, I think I actually had it in maybe a little bit too much sun, but it actually set out a few flowers, which was pretty cool. So this plant, you know, I can't imagine I spent more than $8 on it. I've had it for 5 years. I've repotted it a couple of times, and it is just really cool, really pink, and really happy. And I'm really happy that I have it. Now, another one, and I'm not sure if I've shown you this before, but this is a Tradescantia Tricolor, and I'm not really sure what variety it is, but this is a plant that I saw online, and I said, what is that? And I need it. So I have a couple of them now, and you know, the coloration sort of varies. On some of my older ones, they have sort of turned a little bit more green, although I had one that was almost entirely green in the beginning, and now it's mostly pink. This one I found last summer at a garden store, and so this one is pretty new, and it seems to be doing pretty well. I mean, one thing that's kind of annoying about these plants, and it's just something that they do, is some of the leaves will sort of dry up and curl, not at the bottom, so it's not the whole vine, it's just certain leaves like along the vine. So, and I guess that, these plants are just known for doing that. One thing you can do is you can either pick off the dead leaves, but then it will look really leggy and kind of weird because you'll have these bald spots on the vines. But you can actually cut off the vine at whatever point and then root it and then pot it up here. And it theoretically should grow, a new vine, and that can encourage the plant to look a little bit bushier. I've done that with some of my other ones. I've had a couple of these plants, different kinds of them. And, they will do really well, and then they look really sad for a while, and I've cut them back, and then usually they grow back. So, I don't know if I'd call them fickle. I mean, I think that this is just what they do, but it is a little bit annoying. But they are really pretty. So this one I have in an east-facing window with filtered light, and so it's a pretty bright spot. As you can see, it's pretty happy, pretty full. In terms of watering needs, they do like a moist soil, but they also appreciate a well-draining soil. So, with most of my plants, I water them twice a week, and I do that with this too. These ones will sort of get a little bit droopy if they need to be watered, and so they can tell you a little bit. But I found that it's pretty forgiving, and it looks really great in a hanging basket, as you can see. So now my last one, it's not really a pink plant. It's sort of pink, but maybe I'm just proud of myself because I haven't killed this yet. So I have sort of a love-hate relationship with succulents, but this is a Echeveria. I don't know what type it is. I forget where I bought it, but you can see that it has these sort of like two-toned leaves with pink edges, and it almost has a rose shape. And this type of plants, the Echeverias, they sort of have this rose shape to all of them. And there are so many different kinds of them. They are succulents, so you let it dry out. They like well-draining soil, obviously. I mean, when I say dry out, this one is really dry. And so, some people only water these plants once a month, sometimes not even that often. I think the succulents that I've had, that I've killed, I've overwatered. And so I'm trying to be careful with this plant and the other succulents that I have. And I will go right by them when I'm doing my twice weekly watering because they just don't need it and they seem to be happy without it. So that's really the only care tip I have. I mean, most succulents really like high light. And so this one I have in a east-facing window, but it does get light at least most of the day. This one is leaning a little bit, so it's probably, maybe you could do a little bit with a little bit more light. I mean, it is January in Massachusetts here, so, we're in some of our shortest days of the year. But I'm really proud of myself for not killing this one. And I guess that they're also really easy to propagate. I haven't really been that confident yet. Like I said, I'm just happy that I haven't killed it. And that is enough for me right now. They do have plants like this that are more pink, but I'm happy with this one. I think it's really cool. It kind of matches my shirt. So that is all that I have to show you for my pink plants. I don't think I have any more coming. I do have some begonias that I'm kind of getting into, and those have really cool shades of pink or red or purple or silver. But I might do another video on those once I kind of get them all together. So if you have any questions, let me know. These are some of my favorite plants, and they just happen to be pink, which just happens to be my favorite color. But I'd love it if you told me what you think, if you have any tips for these. So that's all I got. Take care. Bye now.